Welcome to episode 9 of the Trail Currents podcast. I'm Jamil Coury.
I'm Jubilee Paige.
This is the show that takes a deep dive into topics making waves in the running world. Welcome.
Hello.
What else are we supposed to say at the beginning of our show? Is there another tagline or a saying?
I don't know. Was there?
No, I think we're good. This week, our topic, we're going to jump into and discuss the ultra gender gap. And this is something that exists, and it's getting a lot of attention as of late.
Yeah.
Lots of articles being written.
Yeah.
And a lot of passion, I think, behind this topic. And we want to jump into it. We want to have a discussion about it and cover it in the hopes that more people become educated and aware and maybe think about it themselves and I think it'd be cool to talk about, is this a serious issue in the sport? Should we be actively doing something about it? And what are some of the concerns of people out there? Because I think there are some legitimate concerns. People are concerned.
I think I definitely in the past at least a couple years, and then just really recently, in the last several months, gender inequality has been highlighted, and especially within the ultra running community.
We talked a little bit about it in one of our previous episodes, the year in review from 2017. Just kind of mentioning that, well, there's more men running ultra marathons than women, and sometimes in shockingly higher percentages. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, that's kind of disappointing maybe that it isn't more equal, but...
I think it's definitely disappointing,
yeah.
Especially as a female ultra runner, when you go out into the field, you want to be, surrounded by like-minded people, and it's really exciting when you have a competitive women's field, or for me as an ultra runner, looking up to several elite women who are just like crushing their field. It's exciting, and you like to see those highlighted, and a lot of my role models, are mountain women from like the Hard Rock 100, and it's disappointing when the field is less than 10% every single year.
11 women in a 145-person race.
Yeah,
it's kind of like
that's disheartening.
You kind of scratch your head and you're like, well, what's going on here? And
right.
So we're going to get into all that and more. But first, we want to talk about this week's sponsor.
Let's do it.
All right. We once again want to thank Splat Sunscreen. We talked about them last time.
Yeah.
They are making a new product for the ultra world, and not only is it convenient and good for your skin, but it comes in these fancy, colorful packages. You can't miss them. This colorway is awesome. But these are portable sunscreen packets.
Yay.
They're made by a company based out of Salt Lake City. The product is made I believe it's made there and packaged in Colorado. So it's like it's a tag team from these two states. And now it's being promoted here in Arizona.
Yeah.
So these are, they're perfect for putting in your pack. They are a 3.3 ounce pack. So you can definitely fly with this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I saw actually people were using these. I saw it on social media. Some people were using these this weekend, I think up in Colorado, maybe at Leadville.
Nice.
Applying this. And
yeah.
They launched their Kickstarter a few months ago, and the product, they just released their first batch. And so this is now available for order on their website, and it is 29 SPF, which is the perfect SPF. Accordingly to them. It's definitely a memorable SPF number is what they say. But basically, as far as the amount of sunscreen per packet, what they trialed in different sizes is they wanted enough for legs, arms, face, etc. So, and we tested it last week.
We tested it yesterday. Last week.
We're not going to do this again, but because we're filming this show at 9 p.m. We don't really need this right now.
But we did try it out, and it did cover like face, arms, neck, legs. I mean, you tried it on your neck. I don't know. I think I had a little excess, but
So we have the 10-pack boxes right here, but if you want to give this a try,
totally.
They actually have a 3-pack. They have a 3-pack available on their website right now for order. So if you want to help support what we do here with the Trail Currents podcast, please go check out splatsunscreen.com, follow them on social media, and pick up a 3-pack to use at your next ultra, because they are just so convenient. You're not going to carry around like a huge spray to reapply throughout the race, or it's great for drop bags too. You can just slip them in there, put them in your pack, and reapply when you're out there, because that's the thing that gets you.
Yeah,
is if you don't reapply.
It's not the first apply; it's the reapply.
Yeah. So we want to thank them again for sponsoring this episode, and please go support them and check them out. I know that a lot of you did support their Kickstarter, and they appreciate it a lot. So let's jump into it now. Okay. We're going to talk about the ultra gender gap, and I guess I want to outline a little bit about where we're going to go down on this journey. And we have an interesting perspective because, we're race directors with Viper Running here in Arizona, in the southwest of the U.S., and we organize about 30 events per year, and we've been putting on races since 2009. That's when the company was founded. So, and we actually recently put together a lot of our race data. And so we have at our fingertips, and it's pretty close to accurate. We have a couple little issue with some of our data being null versus male female. So we don't have 100% accuracy, just a disclaimer, but we've got a pretty good idea of our numbers, and we want to share some of those figures with you today. We're going to look at some of our events, ultra distance versus short distance. We're going to look at over time, what's happening. Are more women entering the sport? Are they leaving? What's going on? How many women are running 100 milers versus 10K night runs? And just kind of the big picture. So that's kind of some of our own perspective to put into the conversation. Some data that we have that is unique to us. And
we also want to pull out like some outside perspective. There's a lot of talk and articles being written currently about lotteries, especially with the big premier races, Hard Rock, Western States, things like that. The gender blind lotteries, the visibility of women and elite women, especially in the sport. And other things that we want to highlight.
I know too, there's been some comments about women in the media of ultra running, or filmmakers too, and that was a point I think Eric Schranz brought up of Ultra Runner podcast. You hear, and maybe there are more women than we think of. I don't know. You see a lot of the filmmakers that you can think of as, Sage Canaday and Ginger Runner. I put out a few things here and there. Matt Trappy, I don't know, Billy Yang. There's like Wild Ginger Films. She was out at Pikes Peak. So I Run Far's got a balance of Megan and Brian. So it's not totally one-sided. We're out here doing this podcast together, trying to bring a balanced perspective. But I think, it would be cool. I think I'm trying to think of, like on YouTube, who's putting out ultra running content from the female perspective. Sandy Nypaver. Trying to think who else. Probably not. Is there anyone else besides her?
But it's that maybe female perspective on the sport that's maybe lacking.
Yeah, and Trail Sisters, I think, is one organization that's doing a great job. And I think we're going to talk about one of their articles today.
Sure. Yeah.
But so, something to think about. And we're going to get into all of that right now. So where do we want to start? Maybe with what I have down here is the Ultra Running Magazine recap from 2017.
Okay.
So I'll pull that up. So we talked about this a little bit before, but we're talking about Ultra Running Magazine, which is the North American version of Ultra Running Magazine. So they're just basically covering races that are in mostly the United States, some in Canada, some in Mexico. And they publish every year some statistics on participation in the sport. So ultra marathon finishers in North America, Back in 1990, there was just 3,000 total finishes. Last year, there was 103,000. So it's 100,000 more. It's grown every single year since 1990. And some years had some drastic bumps. But what you see is predominantly, in the past, it's been men. Back, I can't even see the chart back before the year 2000, but
I was going to say, does this chart start in 1990?
That's what this starts at.
Okay.
Maybe that's when they started collecting data, or they just,
sure,
that's when they wanted to start. So they've got, how many years is that? 27 years worth of stuff, 28.
Yeah.
So they got back the first year that they split it up by numbers, you had almost 76% was men out of the 13,500 finishers that year. And it seems like almost every year since then, the men's percentage has fallen. Yes, every single year. 75, 74, 73, 73, 72, 71, 70, 69, 68, 67, 66, 65. It's just, so I don't know, just looking at that, clearly a higher percentage of, there's an increasing percentage of women. And maybe that's really the important thing to look at is, okay, yes, there's still a huge gap. You have 34.3% women, 65.7% men. That's almost twice as many men as women running these races, ultra marathons. But 34% compared to 25%, that's a big increase. And I think from the data that we're about to look at from our own events, the percentage of shorter distance trail runners, more women than men.
Oh, for sure.
And
absolutely,
that's been increasing. And also at the ultra distance, it's increasing. So I think, I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years, it's going to be predominantly women running 50Ks.
Absolutely. And then, I think absolutely we're headed that way.
And I wouldn't be surprised if a few years after that, it's 50 milers and then it's 100 milers.
We already see that within our own races. I was so tickled with the Crown King Scramble this year, where I think the entrance was so close to 50-50. We had 46-54 split. And then even with the finishers, I think it was about 49-51 split.
That's awesome.
Which I think probably next year we will have more women than men, and that's a 50K. And just we've seen consistently that race has drawn more and more women, which is really exciting to see in that distance.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to pull up our overall Aravaipa. So we have data from literally from when we started, so back in 2009. All the way on up. And what we're seeing is in our own, and this goes across the board for all of our events. So this is talking short distance, long distance, 24-hour races, 5Ks, everything.
Overall in all the races and distances that we've ever offered. Correct?
Yeah. So back in 2010 is the first year we had data. So we had 38% women and 61% men. And in 2018 so far, almost 46% women. Mm-hmm. So from 38 to 46. And it's pretty much been a steady increase. A couple anomalies each year. Maybe that's with some of our data. But overall, the trend is up. 44%. It's 2015 was 41%, then 44%, then 45%, now 46%. Mm-hmm. So that's just what our numbers are showing, is that they're increasing. There's just like the ultra percentage is increasing even across shorter distances. And it's, once we break it down by race distance, it's even more apparent. So I can pull up one of those races as well right now.
Are you doing Whiskey Basin?
So let me see if Frenzy's ready here. So the McDowell Mountain Frenzy, we have data going back to all the way to 2010. That was the first year we had the race, and now all the way up until 2017, this last year. So the interesting thing about the McDowell Mountain Frenzy and why it shows it is because we have a bunch of years of data. and we also have a bunch of distances. So we have a 5 mile up to a 50 mile. And so back in, let's just pick like 2010, it looks like it's a variance across the board. Actually, we have a lot of null data for some of these, which is kind of interesting. But well, let's go to this year actually. Let's see what that looks like. So for our 5 mile, it looks like, so kind of these stats, we have to take them with a little grain of salt because there's 23% where we just didn't have a gender. But of the remainder of that, we had 52% women and 25% men. Mm-hmm. And then 25% unknown. So I just kind of assume that that's equally spread between the two. But it's like twice as many women as men for the 5 mile. We move up to the 10 mile, 45% women, 38% men. 25K, you're looking at basically an even split, right around 40% for both genders.
Both, yeah, that's an even split.
And then this is kind of where the discrepancy starts, where you were actually seeing more women at the shorter distance, but you still see more men at the longer.
Yeah.
The 50K is like 35% women, 50% men, and 15 null.
Yeah.
And then 25, it goes down. It's 25% women, 56% men, and 18% null. And that looks like we actually had a little bit of a more even split last year in the longer distances for some reason. And that's just kind of an anomaly year to year. But overall, it looks like back in like 2012, for instance, the 50 miler only had 22% women, and the 50K was only 19% women. And it was even less in 2011, 15% women in the 50K and 11% in the 50 mile. So in the 50K in 2010 was 12% women. So there's something happening here.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't know if we need to like completely sound the alarms and panic. It's most prevalent, I think, at races like Hard Rock when you see there's like 11 women and 138 men. It's like, whoa. But I think when you look at across the board, I think it's actually, I mean, it's a lot more even than you think. Maybe not at the 100-mile distance yet, but it's increasing. And I think it just takes time. I mean, women, like the first woman to run a marathon was something like
1967.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sucks. Like that's a barrier to overcome.
Yeah.
But it takes time sometimes, you know?
It does take time. And I mean, I think right now a lot of people are probably talking about, you know, the gender gap within our sport because, you know, there's a bigger spotlight within the social kind of arena, like the, you know, it's kind of like an overall world topic at the moment, you know, because women are rising up and women are demanding, you know, equal pay and kind of like stepping into their own. And, you know, the future is female and that's kind of where we're headed, right? So it's only natural that I think people will then spotlight some of the inequalities that they see within the ultra running community. And, you know, there's a lot of good points, but I think, you know, it is definitely a time factor where, you know, we are seeing the steady rise. And the argument right now is, you know, do we give women kind of a leg up? Do we give women kind of that same platform and say, go ahead and step up, and then we'll just kind of wait for the rest of the social norms to kind of catch up? And that becomes a dividing issue because a lot of women are saying, you know, no, I don't want special treatment. I don't want you to make exceptions because I'm a woman. I want to, you know, train and work hard and, you know, go to the grind and toe the line, like just like everybody else, and be treated equally and show that I am worth my grit. You know, I can go out and I can do pretty much anything I set my mind to. And I'm just as strong, if not stronger than any man out there. Right. But it's just like this kind of like dividing, concept of, you know, do we make these exceptions? So, a lot of articles that we're kind of pulling up kind of lead into that, via the lotteries, those premier races that, Hard Rock, especially Western states, where you only see about 15 to 20% of the field total being women.
And that's disappointing.
That is disappointing.
Yeah.
However, you're looking then, you want to look at how many women are actually applying for these races, right? Because it's not equal. It's not 50-50.
Well, there's the example for Hard Rock. So
right.
18%, I believe, of the field this year applied were women.
Right.
But only 9% of the final field was women. So I think, and that the reason for that is that there is a little bit of a gender bias built into the lottery. It wasn't by design.
No.
It was by happenstance, because back in 1992, there was more men running 100-milers that started running Hard Rock.
Yeah,
And the way that they built their system is that they reward veteran runners. And there's just more veteran men than women. And so it kind of, it maintains that ratio. And so it just, but yeah, it's like, do we save spots for women? That's
back in 1992, there were 45 runners, and 6 of them were women, maybe. And so all of 100% of the women who applied to get into Hard Rock got into Hard Rock.
Well, and they're still running it today. All the Betsies,
absolutely,
they're still at it.
Absolutely. So, and oh my God, Betsy Kalmeyer is about to do, I think, this is her 19th year.
Yeah.
So next year is going to be her 20th year. And that's amazing, because, speaking to her, she never took gender into account. She was just like, I can see those mountains. I know I can go and run in those mountains just like everybody else can. And I'm going to go do it. And she did it. And, she's told me personally that, women are they've got to know that they're strong, and that they can pretty much go and kind of prove themselves in equal competition to men. And I think she's absolutely right. So I mean, it's this, we see this trend of the shorter race distances being now more female dominated. And I think with time, there will probably be that same trend within the 50K, 50-mile, 100-mile distance.
So I guess here's the question. And this is maybe a question for you. Do you like seeing what Trail Sisters did at Loon Mountain Race? Did you hear about this?
A little bit, yeah.
So what they did is they partnered with Loon Mountain.
Yeah.
And they wanted to incentivize more first-time women participants. So if you've never run a trail race before, and you're female, you got a 50% off discount.
Okay.
To entice them to come.
Sure.
And what that ended up doing is that there was 53% women registrants and 47% men. So it kind of helped.
It did boost, yeah.
I think it helped accelerate.
Sure.
I think what will naturally happen, but maybe it can help to jump ahead. I mean, do you like that idea where, okay, because I think ultimately the solution is, we need more inspiring role models and more female role models in the sport. And then, I think we can all agree, this stuff about unequal pay for women for prize money, or only recognizing 5 top women versus 10 top men,
right.
That's just complete
bullshit,
a no-brainer. And it needs to end today.
Total no-brainer. Equal prize money across the board. If you're going to do top 10 men, then do top 10 women.
Because it's just that,
especially.
It's not even, it shouldn't even be an argument. I mean, it's how do you expect more women to show up if you only gave the top 5 women spots in Western states next year? It's just really? Yeah. It's not going to help anything.
No, I mean, and visibility is definitely an issue. And I think, but that's something, race organizations, organizers and RDs can help. We can become a part of that solution. And
something we started doing was the women's training program for Crown King Scramble.
Yeah. And we
really
saw huge
pushing
numbers.
First timers. And I think that's probably what helped get that boosted up.
Yeah.
And I would love to see more things like that, because honestly, any woman out there who's run a half marathon can train for and finish an ultra marathon. I don't know, I'm not a coach, but within 6 months, I'm sure you could build your way up to finish a 50K.
Absolutely.
I think so. But I think, maybe they just don't know about it, or maybe they don't think they can do it, or the time cutoffs are too tight. I don't know what the barriers are, or maybe it's just that there isn't like trail sisters out there or someone promoting and saying, hey, come out, give it a try. Here, we'll even give you a break on your race entry just so you can get your foot in the door and give it a shot. Let's take away any barrier that there might be just to help incentivize you. And I think that's really cool.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Because, why not? I mean, at the end of the day, I think
all
of us want more people, period. But it is inspiring, I think, to see more women.
I want to definitely, encourage more women to get into the sport. And, I don't necessarily think eliminating gender-blind lotteries is the way to do it, because certainly, I think those numbers will eventually catch up. And as far as the lotteries go, that's about as fair as you can possibly handle that kind of situation with those older races. It's a lottery. You get in, you don't.
Well, I don't necessarily not want to offer a 50% discount to a first-time man either,
No.
That's not the goal, but it is cool to see. I mean, the incentives work, obviously.
The incentives do work.
They had 36% returning women at Loon Mountain and 64% first-timers. So that's pretty cool.
And that's great. And you kind of want to see, I'd be curious to see next year if that...
if you took the incentive away...
If you take that incentive away, do those first-timers who ran this year then go back because, maybe they were...
Or do they run other races? Or
right. Is that a confidence boost? Is that the kickstart to, oh my gosh, I can do something totally epic? But I do think, women are stepping up, and they are, little by little, we're seeing those percentages increase. And, my God, the marathon, and way back in the day in 1967, it took 50 years then for that whole gender gap to kind of level out. Where the Boston Marathon now, and especially half marathons across the board, you're seeing more women participants than men participants. I ran a half marathon this summer where I was surrounded by women and very rarely saw any dude.
It wasn't in an all women's marathon or
it
half
was
marathon.
No, it was not. That, and that's great that there are those kind of races out there, but no, you see kind of this increase of, those shorter distances, the 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathon, there's more, that gender gap is really kind of leveled out. And I think really we'll see that trend in ultra marathons. It's just ultra marathon, and the trend of ultra marathon running is relatively new compared to everything else,
do you think there's more barriers for women running ultras, or do you think it's just are they just historically catching up still because of previous biases?
I think women are always gonna fight those previous biases. There's social inequalities that we're always faced with. There was an article written earlier this year. Stephanie Case wrote an article and kind of, talked about some of the barriers that women face, that child rearing is still predominantly a woman's she said it was a household burden, which, I don't necessarily agree with. I don't actually have children of my own, but I don't know. I do know several women, especially 100-milers and very successful ultra runners who do have children and full-time jobs and very career-minded, and they run ultras just like everybody else.
Yeah. I guess if you are having a pregnancy, you're going to have downtime.
Absolutely.
So, which a man wouldn't have. So that's potentially just all things else equal.
Yeah.
Look at Katie and Dom Grossman, for instance. I don't know, this past year, while she was pregnant with their kid.
Yeah.
with Lindy May. Dom probably ran more ultras than she did.
Oh, definitely he did. But that didn't stop her from running.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And I'm not saying that necessarily, but I'm just saying, like, if you just looked at the participation numbers, he's going to have more participations than she will because of that.
Sure.
And she's probably not gearing up for an ultra this year.
Yeah.
Maybe probably next year she'll probably get in some, I'm sure.
But again, I wouldn't call that wants. A burden in ultra training, or like, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's not, I don't know, I guess my question is to maybe some people who are fighting for the equality.
Yeah.
Like, does it have to be equal, or does there have to be more women running and then we'll be satisfied?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it feels like maybe that's the goal.
Where you just even the playing field immediately.
Or if it's not equal, then we're going to be upset.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. When will you be satisfied?
I don't know.
No.
But, no, but it's just like, I mean, that's kind of a fact, I guess, just a fact of life. Like, it's going to be more difficult.
Yeah.
If you are having a family to, I think, participate in as many.
Yeah.
At least for those years, But yeah, there are many families, I think, where even the man is more like taking care of the children more these days. Like, it does happen.
I mean, maybe it's a question of opportunity versus like women maybe lack the same opportunities to sign up for the races that they want, that their male counterparts get in those kind of cases. Well,
definitely if you're in the midst of raising a family,
yeah,
there's just going to be there's going to be less opportunities because of downtime, I think.
Right.
Not to say there aren't anomalies in that, but and I don't know if there's anything wrong with that. I mean, raising a family is a great thing.
By no means, yeah.
So, and yeah, you do see many that come back and they're out nursing on course and everything. Pretty crazy.
I had a second thought and I can't remember where
second thought.
I don't know where I was going with it.
Yeah. Should we run through some more numbers? I have Coldwater Rumble pulled up now, and maybe you can think of your thought.
Maybe I can think of my thought.
Because I guess, yeah, the one major gap that I think we still see, it's as the distances get longer. I guess I haven't looked at the 200 mile, but like our
I would be curious to see like the 200 mile. But like, here's the thing also with like the longer distance races. I think if we kind of deep dived into not necessarily the participation numbers, but the finisher rates, I think you'd see more like for the percentage of women that start. What is that percentage of women finishing? Like, how many women out of that 11% that start Hard Rock, like, do 11% finish or do 9% finish? And I'm honestly thinking that there's going to be a higher percentage of women finishing than men.
Interesting. We don't have that data readily available from our events, but that is something interesting.
Only because, there was a long time ago, there was an article written that the longer the race, like almost like the tougher the race, the longer the race, the longer that women are out there, there's this like equalizing trend that happens where women then become just as competitive as their male counterparts, and they are competing for overall, right? Like for instance, like the Badwater 135 where Pam Reed, early,
you've got
2000, whatever, like back-to-back wins, overall woman in 135 grueling race.
Courtney DeWalter
and two.
There were two women that placed first and second at the Habanero 100 this weekend.
Yeah.
And they both broke the course record.
Yeah.
And they were the only ones to break 24 hours this year. And they were a couple hours ahead of the third place individual who was a man.
Yeah.
So the men's winner was like 2 or 3 hours behind these two women.
Right.
That's amazing.
And cool. It's stellar because, like, you know, maybe the opportunities are less, but I think, like, when women get into these tougher races, you know, their success rate is higher than their male counterparts. Actually, now I want to do a deep dive into finisher rates.
So we have the Coldwater Rumble data. So this is a race we put on, and it's been going for 8 years now. We've had the 100-miler for 5, and every year, I mean, we're averaging about 20 to 25% of women that run the 100-mile. I would like to see that bump up.
Which one are you looking at? Which year?
Just all the years. I mean, it hovers 21 to 24% or whatever. But that comparatively, no other distances in the race, because that race has a 4-mile, a 20K, a 20-mile, a 52K, a 52-mile, and those are all a lot more equalized.
I mean,
like this year, you see, you know, like 40 to 45% of all the other fields are women.
Yeah.
And even in the men's range from 25 to 50. So at the shortest distances, the men are dominant.
Like,
the women are dominant.
The 2018 trend from like 20 mile all the way to 52 mile is almost like straight across the board, where it's like 40 to 45% women, which is stellar. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And then there's
it's still that
10%
the 100-mile distance is still kind of questionable, right?
Yeah.
It's still just not quite there, but I guess it'll be an interesting trend to watch. And yeah, I don't know if as a sport.
I mean, that's the thing. I think that's what we're watching is like the 100-mile ultra marathon distance, you know, because we're seeing like this rise of, you know, women participation in ultra running altogether, right?
Yeah.
In trail running, in ultra running, like, you know, but baby steps. You know, we're taking that increment. We're doing the 10K, and then we're going after a 20-mile, and then a 50K, and then a 50-mile. And eventually, I think we will catch up to the 100-mile. And
yeah, I don't know if we want to just rush people into doing 100 when they're not ready.
No, by no means.
But I think honestly, it will happen. It will start to equalize. I think you're going to continue to see the trend go up,
right?
Especially as more women get inspired and everything like that. I think it's definitely going to happen.
Where is our data for?
But I guess the question is, you know, what things as a sport should we be on the lookout for, or, you know, should we be do more programs, or, you know, to try and get more women to do it? Is that what a lot of these articles are kind of,
I mean,
talking about?
There were a couple that suggested, you know, like flat out, you reserve spaces specifically for women, right? Like if you have a lottery system, whatever race it is, that you set aside a certain number specific only for women, which I'm not totally stoked about.
Like when you're kind of forcing it upon, you're like forcing it through to have,
right.
Like,
so
like
you're
if Western
saying
State was like, Western States is like, we're going to start 50% women and 50% men, no matter what. So we're going to give, even though we have 30% women apply, we're going to start 50% of them.
Right. I'm not totally like for that idea. I'm not totally sold on that idea. For whatever reason, that feels like, you know, preferential treatment. That feels, I'm not. Like I kind of want, like, you know, when you're talking about gender equality, I want that equal. I want it to be equal. Like if it's going to be a lottery and it's, you know, whoever gets in, you know, it's totally lucky, then I don't want like preferential treatment because I'm a woman. That doesn't seem equal to me. So, you know, I would rather be lumped in with, you know, little old me and 1,000 other guys, and maybe I get lucky or not. That's a terrible sentence to put together. Now that I'm actually saying
you and 1,000 guys, and you hope
me and 1,000 guys, and I'm hoping to get lucky. You know what I'm saying? No. But yeah, no. I kind of want that equal shake. So Yeah, I'm not totally sold on that idea of
but I think there's so many races out there where there's no real, it's not like you charge more for women or they're sold out or there's some sort of legacy system. It's just literally, it's like there's a race out there and like a Coldwater Rumble. We have a 100-mile distance. We get 70 people to sign up. We have room to go to 200 people. All we get is 20% women to sign up and we get 80% men to sign up, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like that is what it is in some regards. So I guess, should we like offer 50% off to women to like, so that we hit that number? I mean, but then when you take that away, is it going to fall back to the 20?
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know like if like finances or if it's just like a fear, kind of just like this ingrained fear of like trying new things, or like there's a confidence issue, or if it's I don't know if I can because society's told me I'm a woman and I'm a weaker gender. Like, you know, but I do think that we do need to kind of build up women and, you know, especially like elite women, and kind of the visibility for me is a big issue.
Well, not only that, or even just showing that anyone can do it, I think is
Absolutely.
important too. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know all the barriers. You know, I'm not a woman. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear, I think, from some of our listeners and viewers, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe you're out there and you run a half marathon and you're listening to our show somehow. Yeah. And I don't know, are you fearful of a 100-mile distance or of an ultramarathon? Because I think that really is where it starts to show, is the longer you get into 50-mile, 100K, 100-mile, that's where the big discrepancies are. When you get 50K and below, it's pretty even, or it's honestly more women than men as you get below the 50K distance. So is there a legit barriers that, you know, is it a cost thing? Is it you don't feel inspired, or maybe you're smarter than to want to run 100 miles.
Maybe that's it. Maybe just we're the smarter gender.
No,
we've figured it out.
I mean, I think running 100 miles is pretty smart.
No, but like, you know, now that I said, like, you know, maybe there's a fear factor. I mean,
there is the article about that I Run Far put out, like women overall feel more unsafe while they're running alone.
I mean, that's a true story.
Even in like even more unsafe in urban environments.
Definitely.
You know? And there's real dangers out there.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. And I feel more uncomfortable running in urban areas and on the streets in Phoenix than I do out on the trails by myself alone at night or whatever it is. I'd much more run on the trails than I would at night in the middle of an urban area. Like that, I wouldn't feel safe at all.
I mean, running an ultra itself, I think, is pretty safe overall.
And maybe just like training for something like that.
Right.
You know, what are the hours and the requirements of training? You know, some of us are lucky to know, you know, several people and community of friends that we can share trail miles and hours with, like running and training together. But for a lot of us, you know, we train alone, and training for an ultra marathon where you're out 5 hours to 7 hours on a long run can be a little daunting for sure.
Yeah.
Depending on where you're training.
Absolutely. Where do we go next? Do you have any more on any of those articles?
I mean, a couple of the points that, you know, have been kind of highlighted and bullet points were definitely on visibility, were the inequality of premier races.
So some of the lottery issues you're seeing in the really popular ones, yeah.
But definitely, like, you know, motivation from elite runners, especially female elite runners, giving them kind of a spotlight, to be a platform to talk about, and just like an equal platform. I think especially in podcasts, in like YouTube highlights, we certainly
race coverage.
We certainly highlight, the men's field, the competitive men's field. I'd like to see more highlights and coverage of the women's field, because it can be just as competitive, if not more exciting.
I was
some of those
super inspired by Megan Kimmel this weekend at Pikes Peak. I mean, she broke the women's record, just smashed it. It's awesome. I mean, she was a ways behind the men's winner, but so impressive of a run.
Yeah. But I mean, and it might be like, as an RD, as a female RD, that's something that I can do as well. Even like announcing podium, I tend to always do ladies first and then the men. And so it's the men that kind of is that lasting impression, right? I can flip-flop that and kind of highlight like the women's podium more, I think. But just, giving them like kind of like uplifting those female ambassadors of the sport would be probably...
Have you seen...
would definitely help as far as like inspiring more women to the sport.
Have you seen some companies out there that are doing great things that you think are really good for the sport and good for women and encouraging them?
I mean, it's just like, as far as running, just overall, Wazelle is a great company for women. Wazelle, like they do women's retreats. They're all about elite women and highlighting like the strength of women and bringing together groups of women to support each other. This is really very, very cool. Yeah, Wazelle is amazing. But even like the bigger name, like shoe companies or any kind of running product would be, if they could like highlight something more for women.
Yeah, I think you are seeing. Yeah, it just depends. I think you're seeing a lot more companies being progressive on that end.
Yeah, I know Under Armour took a huge hit this last year, was it? Right?
Oh, was it when they had they have featured almost no women on their main Instagram account or something?
It was like an Instagram of thousands of pictures of only men athletes,
and they have like a separate UA women,
and then a separate account for women. And
the main account was only men.
Yeah, come on.
But you have Ultimate Direction making women specific packs and really featuring their athletes. Trying to think, I think a lot of companies doing a pretty good job. I see Ultra putting out video content, pretty balanced, men and women, like that. I think that like we were saying, the Trail Sisters are doing women's retreats.
Yeah,
they're partnering with races. I mean, Trail Sisters, if you're out there listening,
crushing it.
We should do one. Maybe we would do something with them.
Totally.
Maybe you can reach out where we have a certain race that's a longer distance, maybe even 100-mile at Coldwater. Hey, let's get a ton of women running. Let's get a ton of women running Coldwater. We'll give some incentives, and maybe we'll do tons of race coverage and really focus on a stout women's field.
Yeah,
that would be super cool.
Yeah.
Just highlighting. I think that's a big part of it. I think everything we can do to just be mindful of that. I try and be mindful when I'm covering races, running races, filming them. It's like, well, I don't just want to cover the men. And it's hard sometimes. If you have a limited staff of people or sometimes you have to, if you're moving down the course, you gotta, you see the top couple men. It's like, if you want to see them again and again, you have to leave before the women get there. So you gotta have a separate team, to cover the women coming up and then kind of move down the course a lot of times in those really competitive races. But we try.
I mean, do you make a choice then, like if you're covering elite fields, do you make a choice in saying, I'm only going to cover the women, or?
It just depends. I mean, it just depends. Sometimes I'm trying to cover a certain story.
Right.
So then that kind of dictates, then it doesn't really matter except the story.
Okay.
But then if we're doing general race coverage, we like to, I know at Lake Sonoma, it was an out and back course, and I think we did a pretty good job in that race video of trying to show wherever we could, the top 5 men, the top 5 women.
Yeah.
And maybe towards the end, it was just the top 3 men, top 3 women. We tried to show them and give them some equal footing throughout the race. But it doesn't always happen. I mean, trying to think, even this year, it gets really spread out sometimes at Western States. At some point, it's like if we're going to catch the lead pack at several aid stations, you do have to leave at some point. And you might get the top 15 men, but only the top 5 women, just because you got to move down the field. But that's why you almost, like I said, you need that second team to come in just to cover the women or stick around longer too.
Right.
So, but yeah, I think it'd be cool. It'd be cool to see more. I think it'd be cool to see more women filmers out there.
Or more women filmers, but even just highlighting more of like the women who run, and not even necessarily the elites. I want to see a film made about the woman who is a full-time mom, who has a career, who trains for ultras, who, puts in consistently like 40 to 60 to 70 miles a week and still has, a household, a bunch of kids and
like Darcy PQ.
Yeah.
I don't know her status, but I think was a single mom for a while.
Yeah.
And she just like crushed Rhonda Del Sims and then just crushed Angela's Crest.
Right.
It's awesome.
Like, yeah, the single mothers. And I want to see, the career-driven women and just kind of like these highlighted, almost like, story pieces for women who, maybe overcome all of those barriers maybe that we've talked about. And still go out and say, yeah, I can do this and I can be competitive, or it's just something that I've set a goal for myself and I want to finish it, So, but there are definitely inspiring women out there, and I want to see them highlighted for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, let us know what you guys think. Definitely. We want to hear and, continue this conversation. We thought it was an important topic to discuss here on our podcast. I've been hearing about it a lot.
Yeah.
And I definitely get frustrated when I hear of like things like happening at Vermont 100 when, someone calls them out for giving out top 5 women, top 10 men awards, and then they dig their heels in and try and justify it. And it's just like, man. I think
our sport can be better than that. Our sport is better than that.
It's just, I don't know. It's just, why? Like, it just leaves an empty feeling. It's like, well,
yeah.
Okay, the women's field, I think their justification was that the women's field isn't as competitive. There's less women overall. So we're going to award awards proportionately, but that just kind of perpetuates the existence of the gap.
It makes women feel that they're less important and that they're less visible, and that's not what
I would not.
That's a no-brainer to me.
Right.
It's such an easy fix. So
yeah, I think if you can't afford or have the time to recognize the top 10, then just only recognize the top 5, but do it across the board.
Do it equally. Yeah.
And same with the other things are the prize money differences, and then also
again, no brainer.
Also the race distances. When you have some of these world mountain running championships, I was surprised there was even any left, because I know that a lot of them have been changing due to public outcry, but they'll have a 5.7K race for the women and a 7.8K race for the men. You just like it. And it's kind of funny because I was thinking about that. Like at golf, they have the women's tees and the men's tees.
Where they almost give women a handicap.
It's like, really?
Right?
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like, really? Like, I'm pretty sure the women can hit from the same tees as the men.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it takes another stroke sometimes, but it's like, why why do you have to have the difference, you know?
Yeah.
Seems weird.
I don't play golf.
You don't know what that is? Do you know what par and
double
bogey?
I know. I've putted a couple times.
We should go mini golfing.
Yeah, I'd crush
Aravaipa mini golf group outing.
We could make that happen.
Golfland Sunsplash. So actually, it's really hot in our office today. The AC is not working.
I think spitzing.
We had to turn the fan off so we don't get the audio feedback. But I think it's.
Is it 90 in this room?
It's like 87 degrees in this office, and we're just sweating. We had a team meeting just before this with almost 20 staff in here.
Yeah.
I was like, how do we have that many staff? This is crazy.
Yeah.
Not even everyone was here.
I know.
Wow.
It's
pretty amazing. We need to do a separate podcast just on this, but
just on our staff.
Basically, I could go for a water slide right now into a giant cold pool.
You should have been at the Jackrabbit Jubilee, man.
Yeah, I missed that.
Yeah, you did.
Dang. Did you do anything? Did you do any special things for the women there? Or was it just all across the board?
It was across the board. That's shenanigans awesome. For just everyone.
Shenanigans for all.
Shenanigans for everyone.
Do you know the split on that one? On the Jackrabbit? Was it pretty equal?
I can tell you.
Tell me.
Boop.
So at the end of the day, you don't really agree with the special.
That's the thing. Like I don't want special treatment because I'm a woman. That's the thing. Like I don't want special treatment because of, right? Like
But the incentives.
It feels insulting to me.
But incentives potentially could be interesting to maybe accelerate the excitement and the stoke level, or maybe not even. Maybe just more coverage.
Well, definitely, yes.
I think everyone can agree with that.
Definitely visibility and like lifting up the women ambassadors and, you know, like the visibility of elites and like non-elites alike in the women's field, showing like everyday women that, you know, of any capability, of any, wherever you are within your fitness level, that you can, you know, take time and train and level up, ladies. You're just going to level up to the ultra distances. And I think we'll see those number equalize. You know, I think it's going to take some time. And incentivizing is not a bad way to do it. You know, just to kind of help boost confidence, to kind of help boost those numbers a little bit. Absolutely. But, you know, as far as the lotteries go, I think you keep them gender blind. So Jackrabbit Jubilee, I had 49 finishers in the 12-hour and 21 female. So it's close to, and then 49 and 22. So I had 43 finishers out of 99 participants.
Were women?
Were women.
That's awesome.
So
I was just thinking about this actually, because I'm on YouTube quite a bit, not only posting videos but watching different content. And there's actually, I was trying to think about it more. If there's women influencers out there, there are some women putting out video content for sure. And I think more probably the younger generation.
Yeah.
And that's maybe where it's going to come from more is, I know there's these 3 sisters that are like collegiate type runners. Like one that sometimes I watch, Emma Abrahamson, and then her sisters, she's, I think, just graduated college, but she was like a D1 runner for Oregon. But she's making vlogs and different running videos and has a pretty good following.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, you know, the more stuff like that where, you know, there's younger, you know, there's now a bunch of high school girls that I'm sure look up to her. And if she were to step up and start doing some longer stuff or trail, like, or just running in general, I think it's, you know, if they have positive role models to look up to.
Totally.
I mean, at any age, though, really, to help inspire. I know, like, for me, my audience on YouTube, you know, it's mostly my demo, like
Yeah.
the 20 to 40-year-old male is
Right.
like my demo. And that's who I'm reaching and inspiring. And I'd imagine it's probably similar for Sage Canaday and Ginger Runner and Billy Yang.
Mm-hmm.
Probably we're hitting the similar targets. Like, yeah, here and there's probably some women that watch our stuff, or, you know, girlfriends or wives of some of the target demo. But I think, you know, it'd be interesting to see, you know, what's the analytics behind Sandy Nypaver's channel, Running Wild to Believe, or whatever it is. Or some of these other ones. Like, I'm sure it's more women are watching those channels.
Yeah. Which is awesome. So we need more female creators.
Well,
essentially,
you were talking about potentially a show or something coming out soon.
Yeah.
That'd be super cool.
Yeah. So definitely.
Maybe stay tuned for that. I think you have some ideas in the pipeline on that.
I do.
Which would be super cool. Just the fact that you're sitting down here on this podcast, I think is great.
Well, I mean, you know, I enjoy it.
It's cool. I think at Aravaipa here, we don't really judge anyone by their gender. It's not really a prerequisite, but it turns out we have a pretty balanced staff, if not more women than men. I think I'd have to do the numbers, but between
Haley and I
you and Aaron,
we kind of joke that women run this company.
It's like me and Noah. Thank God we got Noah. No, that's not a competition. We all, I think, work well together. But I think it's really cool.
It is interesting though. Like, we have, you know, male and female race directors. You know, heads of the company are also male and female, and, you know, even our crew is very, very equally balanced.
It's a mixed crew. Yeah. Everyone's got their roles, and it's really neat.
Yeah,
I dig it. It's great.
It's a good environment. I do enjoy it. Yeah.
Cool. Anything else to add? I think we covered it pretty well.
I think so. I mean, you know, certainly, you know, if you agree with us, disagree with us, or have opinions of your own, you know, we want to hear from you. We want to know, you know, if there were any barriers or anything, you know, especially we want to hear from the women. You know, what is your opinion? You know, what kind of, you know, roadblocks do you find in training for your ultras, or even, you know, hesitant to go after the ultra distance? You know, we want to know kind of
I'm curious.
Your opinions, for sure.
Because for me, I didn't really have any barriers to come into the sport.
I don't think I did either.
Growing up, I mean, I was always outdoors and then running, and it was like just natural progression for me.
I just like being outside, so I just wanted to run around.
So, please, honestly, let us know what you think. Again, this is just, you know, it's a discussion about, you know, sometimes sensitive topics. But it's definitely, this is an important one that
for sure.
we absolutely wanted to cover and kind of carry forward the conversation. And again, maybe we can look into doing something to help inspire. I don't know. We'll see.
Cool.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Once again, the show is available. You may be listening to this on Apple Podcasts. That's the most popular podcast platform that people tune into us. You also might be watching this YouTube video. Hi. We have our new set, and I know we got some comments. People are like, the lights look weird in your mirror. I'm like, well, they're just lights. I don't know. They're fluorescent lights, yes, and they just are what they are.
They are what they are.
But yeah, this I think is a more interesting set than.
There are some things. Yeah.
It's a more interesting set than our office over there.
What did we put in there? Like green screen? What did we have before? We had a blank wall.
Yeah,
we had a blank wall. There was nothing interesting about that.
We have got like stuff on this table.
We have things.
I made these tables.
You did make these tables.
We've got, if you see behind us, we've got ultra running magazines all stacked up. And also, if you could see behind the camera, we have literally episodes or issues back to 1981. That would be a fun show, is to
a deep dive into ultra running magazine, because you literally have every issue.
Yeah, almost. There's like a couple I'm missing.
Yeah.
But it would be cool to do like a show. Like, this is, all right, welcome to Ultra Running Theater. I don't know. It's like
we've actually talked about this.
Yeah, where you pick up May 1981, the very first issue of Ultra Running magazine, and basically just flip through it and just react to the magazine, like a reaction video, but it's 2 issues of Ultra Running magazine
from like 30-40 years ago.
Yeah, but I think it'd be interesting. You could make it into a podcast / YouTube show where you like sit there with like a robe on, like with a pipe and like a glass of what would be a sophisticated drink, like whiskey or Chardonnay, I don't know.
Sure. Chardonnay,
cigar, and what would you drink?
You're gonna sit in a robe with some Chardonnay and read.
I don't know. I don't know.
Great.
I don't know what I'm thinking about here.
You're
but
gonna do it. That's good. We'll make it happen.
That'd be fun. It would be a great compliment to Davy Crockett's Ultra Running History podcast, which sounds extremely boring, but he's a pretty funny guy. He's got a little soundboard with like sound effects. He can press a button. We should get one of those.
I'm always down for a soundboard. I do enjoy.
All right, we're gonna look into this.
Oh gosh.
All right, before this show gets out of control.
Before I melt into a puddle, because that's what I feel like I'm doing.
We're gonna end this show, but thank you again to Splat Sunscreen for sponsoring last episode and this episode. Give their 3-pack a try. You can go to splatsunscreen.com, order them up, and please tag us. If you guys end up with these and you heard about it from us, we want to see, and we'll repost you on somewhere on social media. So tag, what is this, Run Steep Get High, or Mountain Outpost, or Aravipa, or Happy Jubilee, or Jam. Just tag us.
Just all of it.
Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will be back next week with another topic, and please give us feedback.
Totes.
Bye. Do we have a sign off?
I don't know. I don't think we've ever had
a wavy week. Have a current. No. We're good on that.
We'll work on a sign off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.